Hey everybody, thank you for joining us at our Facebook Live event, and I'm going to post comments in there about if you have any questions about how to log into the Facebook Live event. Excuse me. And we're going to just sort of casually answer your questions as the 90 minutes we're going to spend here progresses. We are here to answer your questions about what it can be one of the most daunting tasks if you are trying to find care for your loved ones, especially your older loved ones. My name's Scott Duncan, and I'm here with the CEO of At-Home Eldercare, Gavin Densmore. Now, a little Gavin's background. You've been teaching this subject in addition to being in the senior care industry, so this isn't and decades of experience. Tell me a little bit about how you got started in this thing.
I started my first home care agency, Scott, back in May of 2000. So we're almost coming up on 21 years of being in the senior care industry. About 6 years into running our home care agency, my first home care agency, the North Carolina Division of Health Service Regulation contacted us and asked if we would teach for them a mandatory licensure class.
Sure.
And it is on the statutes, rules, and regulations of running a home care agency, in addition to some other scopes of service that are under our license. And so taught that for, coming up on 15 years.
Yeah.
Have had the pleasure of working with literally hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of home care agency owners, new startup home care agency owners, getting to mentor and coach.
And that's an impressive number, right? Yeah, there's like 90 of them you've taught, and 89 of them are still in business, something like that, right?
Well, yeah. So when they approached us and asked us to do that, just about the same time, folks literally from around the country, primarily North Carolina is where we got our start, asked, could we coach them? Could we put them into business? Could we help? We do a one-day licensure class for the state of North Carolina. But having run a home care agency for 7 years up until that point, they said, well, we need help on HR, we need help on compliance, we need help on IT infrastructure, we need help on sales and marketing.
Right.
And so out of that was born a sister company, which I still own to this day, Home Care Seminar.
Right.
And Home Care Seminar not only teaches the state licensing class, but in addition, over the past 15 years, we have had the honor and distinction of training 90 individuals in a 5-day training program. They would come into Raleigh. We would teach from 8:30 in the morning to 5 in the afternoon.
Right.
And in that 5 days, we would give them a crash course in a full immersion, a baptism, if you will, in running a home care agency. Yes, over all the years, we've taught 90 individuals. 89 of them are in business to this day.
So we've established the fact that you know a little bit about this subject matter. Just a little bit, right?
It's a funny story. My first job, moving past mowing lawns for people.
Right.
My first paycheck was I worked in a retirement community washing dishes. So I started my professional career in senior care. Ended up a couple of years later, ended up dating my great Aunt Florence's caregiver, Brenda Parkinson.
Okay.
She was a nursing student. So I've dated a caregiver. Life comes full circle. 40 years later, here I am, and I'm teaching for the state of North Carolina. We are, a couple of years ago, switched gears. We became a franchisor. Excuse me. We became a franchisor of At-Home Eldercare. And now we are doing what I love best, and that is taking folks out of totally disparate industries and making them a success in the senior care market. And I love it. I love coaching people. I love mentoring people.
Right.
Running a home care agency, and I own At-Home Eldercare of Wake County today. The aspect of senior care that I love the most is getting to know our clients. Each and every one of them has a great, unique story. Tom Brokaw said it was the greatest generation. They are the greatest generation, and they are the greatest generation.
Sure.
Of the people that we're caring for. They came up out of a totally different time and place. They served their country. They went to war for us. They kept us safe and home.
Well,
and it's just their stories that you hear are.
You know, and I think that's the misconception, though, is that folks who are elderly are just the World War II veterans. But no, there are people who fought in Vietnam who are getting senior home care. There are people who fought in Desert Storm who are getting senior home care now.
Absolutely.
What's the figure? How many people turning 65?
There are 10,000 individuals turning 65 every day and will for the next 15 to 20 years.
Right.
I read the Wall Street Journal a couple of days ago. Joe Biden's infrastructure plan. Our President of the United States plans on spending $400 billion on seniors in the coming years. That's a pretty impressive number. So, yes, when I owned my first home care agency, Helping Hands of America, I founded it. That's the one I founded back in May of 2000. We actually were the home care provider for a number of organizations in the Triangle area. Wake Med, Duke University approached us and asked us to take care of their, I think they've got 18 or 20,000 employees in the Duke program, both on the medical side and the university side.
Sure.
We became their home care provider. Another one we became the home care provider of choice for was the Brain Injury Association of North Carolina. So over the years, we've cared for a number of brain injury individuals.
Sure.
And so is it just focused on seniors or the WW2 generation? Not at all.
Right.
I mean,
even folks who aren't seniors, you've dealt with that kind of care as well.
Oh, absolutely. I think the youngest we took care of was a gentleman by the name of David. He was about 25. He was in a Tour de France type bicycle race. Came around the corner. There was a pileup. He hit it, and he did a header right into a telephone pole. And to this day, David has got the mental faculties of about a 6-year-old.
Right.
So we took care of David for years and years.
Sure. Now, folks, we are live on Facebook, so that means you can ask us questions live. So if you'd like, just comment on the live broadcast, and we'll be happy to answer any of your questions. And thank you again if you're joining us today. I see we have a few folks already here. We had a bunch who expressed interest, and so they'll be popping in and out. So if you hear us answering the same question twice, don't be surprised. That happens as folks go on with their day. We're going to be here up until 11 o'clock, so about 80 minutes left in our little broadcast here today. And so let's start talking about the process. And I've been through this myself.
Yeah, with your pop.
Yeah.
Yep.
So my dad was facing a pretty serious condition, and he wasn't, because he'd taken such good care of himself. Otherwise, he was dealing with a neurological thing. Right. Needed care, needed to be in a facility, couldn't take care of himself anymore, and so we ended up having to put him in a facility. But for a lot of people now, that's not. He probably could have done well with home care, and unfortunately, he wasn't in the Raleigh area. Right. He was in the middle part of Florida, towards the West Coast. So my brother and I arranged care for him, and had what a lot of people I think are probably watching and questioning in their mind is that disaster. Because what happened was I went to pick up my father to bring him up here to take care of him myself, which turned into a daunting task,
It is.
unfortunately, just
Very
because of
good
his
stuff.
condition. Yeah.
Right.
Because in addition to he was diagnosed with Parkinson's, he also had started to, when he stopped driving, because of the Parkinson's, he started to suffer dementia. So there was a lot of comorbidities. And when I got there, the home care agency that we had hired did nothing.
Yeah, that's.
So that's what we're here today, is how to ask the right questions. What's the first question? All right, so I find it, I go into the listings on Google Maps, let's say, or I do a Google search and I say home care agencies. And I pick up the phone and start calling.
Yeah.
What's the first question?
I would say the first question is, how long have you been in business?
Right.
At Home Eldercare of Wake County, at Home Eldercare, we've got over, I was doing the math yesterday in a conversation with someone. I've got 21 years in the industry. Our Vice President of Nursing, Connie, has got over 40 years of experience in the industry, both working in the facilities and working in home care.
Sure.
Shayna Summer, our agency director, has got over 6 years of in-home senior care experience. So I think the first thing that the first question I would ask is, how long have you been doing this?
Yeah.
Because the longer you're at this business, the better the roster of employees you have. And I'll be very candid with our...
And your marketing guy has a decade of healthcare marketing experience.
So, firsthand experience with your dad.
Yeah.
Every home care agency in the country needs to build a roster of great employees. We cannot do this without our aides and without our caregivers. And it's very simply a process. The longer you've been doing this, the longer you've had a chance to weed out the bad ones and to keep the good ones, retain the great employees. And so we have a mission, our daily mission, Scott and folks on Facebook, what can we do for our employees that we're not doing for them today? And what can we do for our clients that we're not doing for them today?
Right.
And if I keep my focus, Shane keeps her focus on those two balls, we're going to be providing the best home care, best senior care experience in the country, in the world, as far as I'm concerned.
Sure.
So, first question, how long have you been doing it?
Right.
Number two, absolutely number two, I would say, are you insured and are you bonded? Not all home care, Scott, as you unfortunately figured out the hard way, not all home care agencies are created equally.
Yeah.
The number one shortcoming in our industry is what in the biz we call no call, no show. And the employee doesn't show up. They don't call us to let us know, or they don't call the home care agency to let them know. And we have technology in place to monitor that for our employees.
Right.
Not all home care agencies do. And I can talk about the technology. It's kind of like if you imagine Match.com.
Sure.
Match.com matches up, or this perfect individual, and hopefully there's a match. Our technology does the same thing from a caregiver-client perspective, but more importantly, our technology allows us to literally see when the client arrives at
When the
caregiver arrives at our client's home and when they leave.
Right. Live TV, folks.
So, my apologies.
No.
I'll probably stumble on my words once or twice more, but...
Well, and so I'm looking at this mythical list on Google that I pulled up, and we know in this day of internet that people can write reviews.
Absolutely.
How much stock do you put in those? I know a lot, because I've seen it dealing
I
with
put
other...
I put a lot of stock in reviews.
Do you?
Oh, absolutely I do. I think it is every agency owner's job to be diligent, and I absolutely, categorically believe in customer satisfaction.
Sure.
Customer service, yes, but customer satisfaction, it's a little bit different. And I want the happiest customers in the world. And I think the way that you do that is you find exactly the right caregiver for them. And then you communicate with the client and the employees. And you make sure everybody is on the same page on a day-to-day basis.
Now, the first thing I'm thinking as a former journalist is the questions I want to ask. Sure. But you should pay attention to what they're asking you, too, right? If you call an agency and they don't ask you about certain questions, what are some of the questions they should be asking you? You mentioned Match.com, matching the caregiver with the...
Absolutely. Does the client smoke? Does the client have pets? What is the level of care that the client needs?
What conditions they may
be suffering from. And I can tell you from teaching for the state of North Carolina, there is a law that says if the client is limited assistance, we can use this set of employees. If they're extensive assistant clients, we need to use this set of employees.
Right.
So it's
knowing into a licensed caregiver.
So from a question perspective with the family, so somebody calls in and says, Shayna, Gavin, saw your Facebook Live and boy, we're thinking about care for mom. You start with, okay, tell me about mom. Tell me about mom's situation. Tell me about your family situation. And we have a sheet that has been honed over 21 years. And we go right down the sheet. And we're prompting. God gives us one mouth and two ears.
Yeah.
And what we need to do is I need to hear from the family, what is mom's care? So you always start, when it comes to selecting the great employee that we're going to send out to our client's house, it always starts with what is the skill set necessary? If we really kind of provide two levels of care, Scott. We provide companion level care and we provide hands-on level care. Companion pretty much is hands-off. Aid level care is hands-on.
Right.
So if you think hands-off and hands-on, that's pretty easy. Companion level care, we're going to help with med administration.
Right.
Med management, transportation, light housekeeping, meal preparation, linens, laundry. Probably most importantly, just simple companionship.
Just somebody being there, making sure the person is safe.
Depression is prevalent amongst seniors. And having somebody come in to keep them company and show up on a day-to-day basis is huge on their mental health.
Yeah.
If they need hands-on care, then we're going to send in what's called an AIDE, A-I-D-E. Right. And they've got experience with hands-on care. They've worked under the supervision of a registered nurse before. Now we're going to assist with toileting. We're going to assist with bathing. We're going to assist with ambulation. Dad had Parkinson's. We've had plenty of Parkinson's clients over the years. Nick, great guy. And Frida was his great aide. Great aide, great clients. It was a great match.
Yeah.
Nick and Frida would come in the office, and she might come in to drop off his invoice and payment, or maybe come in to get more timesheets, and she would literally help him ambulate down the hall.
Well, and so to talk more about and actually we got a question. So before I get to that, Tahija, who is watching us online.
Hi, Tahija. Thank you for your question.
Wants you to break it down. What does it mean when you say they're insured and bonded? What does that mean? Okay, so as I said, Tahija, not all home care agencies are created equally. Our insurance, we carry really 4 primary big chunks of insurance that should concern our clients and concern everyone. One, there's general liability and there's professional liability. If something happens in a home, then we're insured from a liability perspective. Number 2 is bonding or theft coverage. And knock on wood, we've never had to have our bonding insurance pay off, but every one of our employees is insured up to $25,000 for theft
per occurrence per employee.
And that covers the client.
That covers the client.
So-
So if Aunt Mildred's antique engagement ring went missing and it was $15,000, I would like to think that our employees certainly did not take it. It's never happened in 21 years, but this does occur in
It
our
happens
industry.
in the
It happens
industry.
in the industry. Then the client is insured up to $15,000. Great example, Tanisha. We were a partner of Resources for Seniors here in White County. And this is, oh heavens, probably 10 or 12 years ago. David Cotton Jim was the executive director at Resources for Seniors, and he's got a very distinctive voice. And my phone rings one day and it says, "Densmore, are you insured and bonded?" And I'm thinking, well, of course we are, but I know it's David on the phone, so I know it's Resources for Seniors, so I know I'm going through my mind quickly, mentally thinking, which of our clients is with David, and did,
Something
my
happened. Yeah.
client? He said, "I got a client up in Wake Forest, and the aide stole all the daughter-in-law's jewelry." I'm thinking, Wake Forest. No, we don't have any clients in Wake Forest. We're good. Okay,
Yeah.
so
He's looking for a referral because somebody else messed up.
absolutely. Well, David, yes, we are insured as well as bonded. I'm happy to share our insurance policy with you if that would make you comfortable. And he said, "Well, I don't want it, but Stacy might." And I said, "Well, who's Stacy?" He said, "Well, that's the daughter of, Mom's living with the daughter and son-in-law."
Right.
And come to find out, Stacy called the agency that they were with, and they were not insured and they were not bonded. So Stacy literally had to sue the agency in a court of law to recoup her lost jewelry values. In our case, we are insured, so the second big chunk of insurance for a home care agency that they should have is bonding or theft coverage.
Right.
It costs $500 a year. We carry workers' compensation to protect the employee if they get hurt on the job. We carry bonding and theft coverage, and it costs $500 a year. Come on, guys, that's not even a drop in the bucket for a home care agency.
Right.
$500 a year to insure all of the employees. $25,000 per occurrence per client. So there's that. There's sexual abuse. I've never heard of it in our industry, but they include it in the policy. So if it's a freebie, we'll take it. And then the final form of insurance, something called hired and non-owned auto. We do a lot of transportation for our clients, Scott.
Right. And it's in the caregiver's vehicles.
Well, it's
Sometimes.
ideally we're going to transport in the client's vehicles because the client's vehicles have probably got a higher insurance limit than our employees do.
Okay. All right.
It's just the way it goes. But in the event that there's an accident, then the caregiver or the client's vehicle's insurance pays off first. Our insurance, the hired and non-owned auto, is secondary coverage to that.
Covers gaps and deductibles.
So if they blow through the employee's insurance or they blow through the client's auto insurance, then we've got additional insurance behind it.
Above and beyond sort of an umbrella
Above and
liability.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's a great question, and I hope that answered your question.
All right, very good. Thank you, Tahisha. And if you'd like to submit a question, just do so through the comments. Let's talk about how folks can contact us. Obviously, on the Facebook page, there's contact information, but what's our phone number here?
Well, we've got two different locations, folks. We've got Raleigh, and we cover the whole Triangle area. And our phone number for Raleigh is 919-263-0989. I'll repeat that again.
263.
919-263-0989. Our other location is in Winston-Salem, where we're serving the Triad area. Our agency owner over in Winston-Salem is Kimberly Pettigrew. Kimberly is, well, I'm so proud of Kimberly for the job she's doing. She's absolutely awesome.
And we'll talk about Kimberly's qualifications in a minute because they're actually very impressive.
Her phone number in Winston-Salem is 336 586.
56.
Again, 336-582-9156.
All right, and I'm posting these numbers in the comments, but if you just search for us, because each office has their own Facebook page, and then there's also emails, there's websites. The main website for the whole company is At Home, and I'm going to write this here too, is athomeec.com.
Yes.
And folks, I'm typing here, so I'm sorry I'm not looking at the camera.
That's fine. And while you're typing, or we're waiting for the next question to come in, Scott, let's look at the continuum of care.
Yes.
And
And Tahisha says thank you, by the way. You answered her question. She understands what bonded means now.
Well, you're more than welcome, Tahisha. The continuum of care. We all start out being born, so we're 1 day old over here.
Sure.
And we go to see Jesus when we're about 100 over here, hopefully. We're all getting older and we're living longer, so that's good news.
Yeah.
So from day one, when we're born, up until about 18 or 20, mom and dad are looking out after us. They're taking care of us. And mom's making sure the meals are fed or on the table, or dad's making sure the meals. And they're going out earning a paycheck, and we're in school, and we're playing, and we're having fun. And then you kind of get up to 18 or 21, you move out, and you go to college. And from about 21 up to about 65, you're most generally speaking, you're self-supporting, you're on your own, you're getting married, you're having your own babies, and you're living life. That's great. Well, you hit 65 over here, and we retire. And we really see the vast majority of home care is focused on seniors. So when it comes to the continuum of care and in the senior care industry, we're really kind of focused on 65 to 100. So now we're looking at this spectrum of age.
Right.
And underneath the continuum of care, we've got some choices. Aging in place. Now, some folks are more blessed than others in that they don't need as much help.
Right.
My folks are living independently still. They're in their mid 80s. They're doing pretty darn good for themselves. They're paying their own bills. They're carrying the conversations. They're living life. I'll bet a whole lot slower,
Well,
but they're living their life.
We're both in our mid 50s. We're slowing down too. So right there with you. It's like,
I'm moving a lot slower these days.
Tim, I got up this morning and it's like I was in a good mood. You know why? Because my arm didn't hurt anymore. It's like
I get out of bed and I'm feeling fine. I wake up, my foot hurts. It's like, what did I do? What can I do in bed? So, yes, but there comes a point where we need help to remain safe and independent.
right. And that's at varying levels.
And that's at varying levels. So now, under the continuum of care, what are our choices for a senior?
Yeah.
I'm a little bit biased. I own a home care agency. I own a home care franchise organization. I think home care is the best, or senior care is the best, keeping them at home, aging in place where they want to age.
Well, and that brings in events in the news.
Well, yeah, and we'll get to that. You're right.
Sure.
So there's home care, in-home senior care. Drop down one, there's something called a retirement community. This is where you basically sell your house and you downsize dramatically and you move into an apartment.
Right.
That's a retirement community. You're still caring for yourself 100%. You're just living in an apartment now. And they've got the shared meals. And if you can't drive, then they've got a van that will drive you places. Things like that. They have an activities coordinator where you can get into pickleball and things like that. Underneath that, we have what's called an assisted living facility, or an ALF. This is kind of a misnomer, because the name is assisted living facility, where you're going to go into a much smaller apartment. It's almost a room now at this point. And the facility is going to send help in to help you get a bath, help you get onto the toilet. But we have, Scott, if you knew the number of times that we had clients living in assisted living facilities just to supplement the care that they were providing to their residents, I have problems with that. And then you have, in what everyone knows as a nursing home, or what we call in the industry a SNF, skilled nursing facility.
Right.
And this is where you definitely are in a single room. You're in a hospital bed. You're going to have medication administration. The nurse is going to come in and care for you. And the cost of what we're discussing, Scott, the cost goes up. The more care you're receiving, the more expensive it gets. At the bottom, the very end, another option that is coming out like gangbusters for a very select percent of the population is what's called a continuing care retirement community, a CCRC.
Okay.
And this is where they're gorgeous facilities, right? It's like going to the Ritz, and you have an apartment in the Ritz. But the deal is, you sell the house, you get the $400,000 or $500,000 out of the house, and you give it to the continuing care retirement community. That buys you a condo or an apartment in their place.
Right.
$400,000 or $500,000. Then you got to pay them on a monthly basis too. You got to pay rent on top of it. Typically $3,000 to $5,000. Their obligation, it's kind of explained in the name, continuing care retirement community, is you walk in on your own two legs, and as you age and as you need additional care,
Senior living, assisted living, skilled nursing.
yep, and out the back door on the gurney to the morgue. Yes, they care for you throughout the whole process. Incredibly expensive. I'll be very candid with you. I think maybe they're looking at top 2, 3, 4, 5% of the population of the United States that can afford this level of care. And again, we've helped clients in continuing care retirement communities as well. We've cared for individuals all the way through this spectrum. But what we specialize in, and I think what is incredibly cost effective compared to all the other alternatives, is in-home senior care. It's aging in place. It's staying where your memories are. It's staying where you've got the hash marks on the trim where you measured your kids as they grew up. It's where you celebrated Christmases and Easters and Thanksgivings your whole life.
Right.
And it's where they want to stay. And we can go in and assist our clients anywhere from 4 hours a day all the way up to 24 hours, 7 days a week. We can keep, and here's the kicker, Scott. They will never receive better care than the one-on-one care they're getting at home. If we talk about being in an assisted living facility or a nursing home or
how many people is one CNA taking care of?
One CNA typically takes care of, I'd say, 15 to 20 individuals on the floor. And speaking of COVID, how did all these folks get COVID? And Scott, 50% of all the deaths in America attributed to COVID in senior care facilities.
That's an astounding number.
It is an astounding number, and it's shameful. But yeah, Mary, the caregiver, goes from taking care of this patient to this patient to this patient. This takes one to have a super spreader environment. So, I mean, taking COVID totally out of the equation, our clients get one-on-one attention. They don't get they're not getting 5% of my time, they're getting 100% of my time. So I think it's absolutely huge, and it's a game changer in caring for our clients and keeping them happy and keeping them home and safe and out of harm's way.
All right, so this is a good question from one of our viewers. So if a caregiver is taking care of an elderly woman in her home that has dementia, and she's transitioned sort of from the companionship to the aid level,
Sure.
but the husband has started to exhibit signs, talk, repeats himself. One of the
Potential
signs.
dementia or Alzheimer's.
Perhaps, yeah. Is it a good idea to bring in a separate caregiver for him, or should the one person handle both? Or
We have a lot. No, I think one person can handle the husband and wife team more than that, depending on their situation. Right. But
it is a
I'd say-
possibility you may
I'd
end up
say
with more than one.
95% of the time we have a level of care we call couples care.
Right.
We take care of the missus, we take care of the mister at the same time, and it's the same caregiver. And our caregivers literally become part of the family.
But sometimes there may be a need for more than one at a time, because maybe
And if that's the case,
husband's wandering off while wife is.
And if that's the case, we can always put a second individual in there, and that's just a situational call that we
Sure.
that
But not out of the realm of possibility.
no, not out of the realm of possibilities.
Sure.
And so we would find someone for the husband, we would find someone for the wife. They would be dedicated to their levels of care.
Okay. Well, I hope that answers our viewer's question. Thank you for it. And again, if you folks would like to ask questions, you can email us, you can call us at the office. If you haven't got a chance to sort of type in, or you're just watching, you're driving, what have you, and please be careful if you are. You can obviously contact the office. I've placed the contact information in the chat for the live event. We're going to be archiving this live video, so you can go back and watch it if you missed the answer to a question. Of course, you can, through the contact information on the Facebook pages for the various offices, Winston-Salem and Raleigh specifically. Welcome to the folks. We also have some folks joining us from the Winston-Salem area. We were advertising
Wonderful.
this. Yeah, no, it's very good.
Again, Kimberly Pettigrew, At-Home Eldercare of Winston-Salem. You can get Kimberly at 336-582-9156.
All right. So we've gotten into the continuum of care, and we've talked about how, unfortunately, because of recent events, the pandemic, home care is a more and more viable option, and the demand is increasing.
No, it's off the charts.
Yeah. So the first question, how long you've been in business? Second question, are you insured and bonded? Where do we go from there?
Well, in your scenarios we're discussing, Scott, we want to get to know the family's needs.
Okay. So
And
that
that's
raises a question.
That just is just by listening and asking questions.
Sure. That raises a question. So I'm calling you, and I'm looking for senior home care. What do I need to know to answer your questions? What information do I have to have in front of me
Well,
or in my head?
in your head, you need to know mom or dad's situation.
Right. What have they been diagnosed with? How are they cognitively?
Yeah, what has led to the need for placing your phone call?
Right.
What are your concerns? Did you go, you're out of town, but it's Thanksgiving and you go out to mom's house and the house is a train wreck, and mom, who is normally fastidious, is totally in a mismatched outfit. That's a flag that maybe something is going on that we need to look a little bit closer at. It could be a fall situation. We had a client who fell, ended up breaking both her shoulders. And we ended up providing 24/7 care to her until she passed away. It could be Parkinson's, it could be dementia, it could be Alzheimer's, it could be a stroke, it could be just normal aging. I mean, just getting older. I was talking to my dad on the phone, and that Pop is 86 years old, and he said, "Yeah, man, I tell you, changing those sheets on the bed is getting tougher every day." And I said, "Dude, I have trouble at 56. I don't know how you're doing it at 86, for God's sakes." I mean, so having a caregiver come in and help just on things like that around the home. But we start out with a conversation and try and get to know what the family's needs are.
Sure.
And as we're going through that conversation, I'm thinking in my head, Kimberly is thinking in her head, Shayna is thinking in her head, okay, I'm going through my roster of employees, and I'm listening, and I'm ticking off potential caregivers and aides that can go in and help this family out. It always starts on a needs basis, does the employee that we're thinking of have the skill set to take care of the family? Then it kind of comes down to personality, and you say, what are some of the questions? Literally, do they have pets? Do they smoke? Where are they located? Because I've got employees that are allergic to cats. I've got employees that don't like the smell of cigarette smoke. I've got employees that don't like dogs. They can't be around dogs. And you literally, and this is what comes from years of experience, is using this criteria to make sure we get the best possible employee for the client on the match. And yes, the technology helps us in a lot of those regards, but at the end of the day, it's also us knowing our employees. My old agency, Helping Hands of America, the average tenure of our employee was 13 years with our agency.
Which is astounding. If you have any idea what the turnover rate is in this industry.
It is astounding, and I like to think it shows the love that we felt for them. Folks, if you want to find a great home care agency, find a home care agency that loves their employees. Because if the employees are happy, then our clients are going to be happy.
Oh, absolutely.
And that's all I care about are happy clients and happy employees. The rest of it, it doesn't run itself. There's a lot to run a home care agency, but those are my two biggest concerns knocked right off the table there.
Yeah. No, and the reality is, in any sort of healthcare, if you're providing any sort of healthcare service, you've got a lot of people looking over your shoulder.
Oh, absolutely. You've got the state. You've got the family. Family is diligent. Everybody needs a client advocate. Family members, if you are out, mom and dad are back in another state, no siblings around to keep an eye on them, I would heavily, heavily encourage you to go out to, you can Google Geriatric Care Manager Association.
Right.
And I think it's aginglife.org or .com. You can find a geriatric care manager. They specialize in nothing but seniors. And if it is senior related, then by gosh, it's in their wheelhouse. And if you are here in Raleigh, or you're here in Winston-Salem, and mom and dad are out in Spokane, Washington, and you think that they need some help, get a geriatric care manager to go out and help them out. They can do an assessment. They can be mom and dad's boots on the ground in Seattle while you're back here in Raleigh. And they can help coordinate. They can help coordinate the care. So everybody needs,
Is that it?
agingcare.com.
All right, there we go. That's one. But just as you said, just Google geriatric care manager.
Yeah.
And that's a thing.
That's if you're out of town. For instance, I'm in Raleigh, North Carolina. My dad is up in Grand Rapids, Michigan.
Okay.
Hey, if dad has a need, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up because it's 900 miles away, I'm going to get boots on the ground with a geriatric care manager. So having an advocate for our family members is huge. And that person is advocating for the well-being of the senior.
All right, I'm typing this out so people know how that's all spelled. And
okay, well, so what does an advocate do? They stay in touch with the family member. How are things going? They're checking in on a weekly basis. They're going by. They're seeing how our employees doing. Coming back to your dad's care and you going down and finding out that the aides weren't doing anything. That is absolutely shameful. And it comes back to the point that not all home care agencies are created equally. One of the things that I pride ourselves on at Home Eldercare, and this was the case in Helping Hands of America, my previous agency as well, awesome case management. Now, I can tell you, Scott, state law says you have to do a visit every 90 days.
right.
We were and are in touch with our clients literally on a weekly basis. whether it's a scheduling issue, they're going on vacation, they don't need Sheila to come in and help out, or maybe it's a billing concern that they have, or whatever. We're maintaining that relationship because, as I said, the best part about running a home care agency is getting to know my clients and getting to know their stories. Literally sitting down and talking to them.
So after,
I've got story upon story of how impressive our clients were. I have the honor, well, at least my agents have the honor of caring for the inventor of the barcode. How cool is that?
That is very cool.
We've taken care of literally not rocket scientists, but we've taken care of test pilots, the new Chuck Yeager. That's pretty slick. We've taken care of WW2 vets. I took care of, well, personally, my employees did. They crushed it. They did a great job with Charlotte. Charlotte was a blue blood from Boston who wrote for the Boston Globe for years and years and years.
Probably read her stuff.
Yeah.
Former Bostonian, so.
We had a client in Durham who literally owned the largest truck. It was a woman, owned the largest truck stop in the state of New Jersey.
Wow.
And boy, was she a hoot. She was just so giddy.
She's been dealing with all those truckers. She
Yeah.
had to be a little salty, I would imagine. Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Now we have a question. And this goes back to our earlier conversation. Obviously, COVID is top of mind for everybody still.
Yeah, and it needs to be.
They want to know how your employees, or what the company policy is for handling COVID, what's been changed for the pandemic. Are they wearing masks? Yes. What updates to policies and procedures have there been? And that's Tasha. Thank you, Tasha, for that.
Well, Tasha, we require of our employees that they do a self-test every day. And they've got a notepad, and do you have a cough? Do you have a fever? Boom, boom, boom. And literally they are taking that test on a daily basis and taking their temperature every day. Mm-hmm. In addition, they're masking up. And our employees... We actually have a training program on how to wash your hands, folks. So hand washing is huge. Masking up, there really hasn't been a flu season this year. Why? Because everybody has been wearing their masks.
The flu has dropped off the face of the earth.
It has, which goes to show the benefit of wearing a mask.
Yeah.
So we're having the employees test themselves every morning before they go into work. Answer the questionnaire that we give them, and then once they get there, obviously great hand washing technique and being masked up. That's it. Our policies and procedures, believe it or not, have covered this from day one. It's infectious control and communicable diseases, and it's covered in our policies and procedures, which we abide by. Kimberly Pettigrew, all of our franchise partners following the policies and procedures. That's how you run a great home care agency.
By the way, let me talk about the franchise thing for a second, just so folks know. And if you search for At Home Elder Care Franchise News on Facebook, you'll see it. Gavin is also the CEO of At Home Elder Care, the franchisor. So if there's anyone out there are territories available in this area, in the Piedmont or Triangle or
down in the Charlotte area.
Down in the Charlotte area, there's a lot. If you know anybody down there who's interested in owning their own business, you can reach out to us through Facebook or at the website. There is a franchise page on the website as well. I'll post that link. So if you're interested in getting into what is a thriving and growing business, then please feel free to reach out. There's some, and that whole process is a in-depth. You don't just sell these like. You're very careful who you do business with.
We're pretty picky on who we partner with.
Yeah.
I don't want just anybody off the street to partner with, because at the end of the day, they're representing my brand. And I want them being the caliber of home care agency that I run. I want them being the caliber of individual that Kimberly Pettigrew is at Winston-Salem.
Let's talk a little bit about Kimberly when we get done.
It comes back to focusing on the employees and focusing on the clients and running a great tight ship.
Right.
And being the best home care agency in the state. I always said I didn't want it to be the biggest home care agency, Scott. I wanted it to be the best home care agency. And in my heart, I believe that. I think we hit our mark.
Absolutely. Just so, let me give you a little bit of background on Kimberly, and then you can fill in the details. But she actually has 2 master's degree in health management related degree programs. She has run healthcare facilities in the past for other folks, and then decided to go into business for herself, and has been doing an excellent job because she brings all of that knowledge and all of that success with her. And that's the kind of people who are providing the care and determining the care that your loved ones are getting from this company, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So we covered how long have you been in business, bonded and insured. Is there a red flag? Is there a, hey, why did they ask that? Or why didn't they ask that kind of thing that you have to watch out for?
I will say this. The number one interesting thing to come out of owning a home care agency is the family dynamics. We had a client over on the corner of Glen Eden and Ridge Road, inside the Beltline. And Mammy sat on about, I don't want to use any last names because of HIPAA, 3 acres of property. 7 kids in the family, Scott. 1.5 of them were consistent caregivers for our client.
Right.
The other 5.5, I think, were waiting for mom to go to be with Jesus so they can sell the property and get the inheritance. We ended up not only caring for Mammy, but we also ended up caring for one of the daughters, one of the 1.5. And I say half because one daughter was out of town, but every weekend she was coming down to take care of mom. So she kind of
So the half was just about time, not about her commitment.
The half person was about time and distance and availability.
Right.
And we ended up caring for the daughter as well. And so are there red flags?
No, but if I call an agency, I'm a customer, I'm a client. I need help from my dad or my mom, and I call an agency, and why did they ask me that, or why haven't they asked me?
I think one of the flags for me, and I'm seeing this more and more with COVID, is just getting to pick up the phone, which blows my mind. For 21 years.
So if a human being doesn't answer the phone.
Yeah, if it goes into voicemail, that's a flag. You need to be, I want you talking, if you're calling in, I'm biased. I think you should be talking to the agency owner or the agency director, one of the two. You may call in and talk to a customer care representative who can't give you all of the answers. If I call in, I want all the answers. I want to talk to the big dog in charge, and I think that's a flag.
If you can't get hold of a decision maker.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, you have to have a line of communication with them. I mean, nothing is more important than your parents' care. And if you have an issue, then by gosh, you need to be able to talk to somebody in a position of responsibility. And in a home care agency, it's going to be one of 3 people, Scott. It's going to be the agency owner, it's going to be the agency director, it's going to be the director of nursing.
Right.
And I want one of those 3 people getting on the phone. Yeah. So if you're not getting that, that's a flag. That's a huge flag.
Yeah, the last thing you want to do is talk to some marketing guy. I'll be honest, because my role here is to handle Facebook and take pretty pictures and shoot video and stuff. And so, if I'm just some marketing person, I don't know how to answer questions about
how do we select staff? What are the signs of vascular dementia?
Yeah.
What happens? A great example.
And because of home care, sorry, you bring up these questions, and this is what I'm going to be asking. a home care person is going to sometimes be the first person to see a new condition, a new...
Absolutely. Yeah. Case in point, we had a client down in Southern Pines, North Carolina. There was an agency taking care of her already. The son's name was Rocky. Rocky called and said, hey, found you on the web. My mom needs care. And I said, well, tell me about your situation. Right?
What's going on?
What's going on? Well, we have an agency in place. Mom has Alzheimer's. Mom told the aide to go home from this agency, and she left. She left Mom unattended.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So are all home care agencies created equal? That employee needed to be reprimanded, if not fired, right on the spot. Why? You never take marching orders from someone with Alzheimer's or dementia. Period. It was beyond stupid on her part.
Well, not only that, beyond not taking the orders from mom.
Talk about that liability insurance that
Yeah.
you're covering with.
Yeah.
So,
knowing how to handle it when mom gets insistent, that's another key too, probably.
yeah, well, in Patsy's case, her neurologist put her on a new medication that we weren't aware of. And it hit another medication she was taking, like 2 freight trains going 90 miles an hour. And my employee calls and says, Gavin, Patsy's chasing me around the house with a knife and a stick.
I'm not that, but that's, that kind of thing happens.
And it happens. And she said, what do I do? I said, tell you what, because she's got Alzheimer's, put yourself in a bedroom, lock the door. Let's give it 5 minutes, poke your head out and see if she's calmed down. And this comes around to another sweet spot that I'm very strong about in senior care, and that is having a terrific nurse on staff that can see things that you and I as business people, you're marketing. I'm marketing, the medical stuff.
Yeah.
My nurse said, first was what's changed. Because Patsy had been she had Alzheimer's, yes, but very placid, very quiet, very laid back. No aggression whatsoever.
Right.
It was my nurse, Monique, that said, you know what? We got to talk to the neurologist because I bet he has changed her medications. And she nailed it. Her son, Rocky, was a social worker. Rocky didn't even pick up on it. My nurse did. We went to the physician, the neurologist, and said, hey, this is bad. And so they changed their meds. It took her about 3 weeks to calm back down to the point that, she wasn't aggressive any longer. So, having...
And I think that's the perception is that, all right, so I've hired home care and they're going to come in and vacuum the floors and make mom a pot of spaghetti once in a while and that's it. But it's a lot more than that. It's eyes on the person's health and well-being and welfare.
It comes back to the case management I mentioned earlier. Knowing our clients, knowing their situations, and being able to pick up on things like that and offering great case management for our clients. A lot of times, Rocky was in New York. Mom was Rocky had a sister who was totally unplugged here in North Carolina, did not take care of mom, didn't have anything to do with mom. Rocky was the boots on the ground, but he was back in New York. They need great case. They need that client advocate. They need that patient advocate looking out for them. And Scott, our nurses do, our nurses do a great job in that context. So yes, it can be huge.
By the way, Tasha says thank you, and you're welcome, Tasha. Glad we answered your question. And yes, we are very much cognizant of, and a lot of the procedures are already in place to deal with preventing the spread of COVID. Employees are masking up and taking all the precautions. And as Gavin mentioned, we have an actual course on how to wash your hands. We should do that one online. Well, no, I mean, it's great. Like the one thing I heard, because I've been through, having to learn how to wash my hands, having worked in, around healthcare. Right. And the fact that most people forget to wash the back of their hand. is one big
Back of the hands and fingernails, folks. Fingernails are just harbingers of germs. So when you're washing your hands, you want to scrub your fingernails like this on the palm with a soap to get it up underneath there to kill those germs.
There you go. You just learned that.
There's a little crash course in washing your hands. But yeah, we have precautions in place, Tasha, to ensure that our clients, as well as our employees, are taken care of in that situation. We have got masks on hand. We've got gloves. We all glove up in the house. I mean, as a business owner, my profit and loss, I got a line item just for gloves alone. We go through a lot of gloves every year for the employees.
Just so folks understand too, is yes, I know we're not wearing masks here today, but we're both tested. I'm vaccinated fully.
I'm fully vaccinated.
Yeah, so
for a month.
Yeah, and I have been for about 3 weeks. So we're past where it is. They say what, a week to 10 days afterwards.
2 weeks.
2 weeks. Okay.
2 weeks. 2 weeks after your second shot.
So we're taking the precautions as well here, folks, and just in case you're wondering why we're not wearing masks.
And I would encourage all of you to go get your shots. I have not sprouted a second head or a third arm, and the nurses are.
Which one did you get?
I got Pfizer.
So did I. And I was actually part of the trial.
God bless you. You have more oomph than I do, because
part of my past experience was I actually worked in clinical trials. I was director of marketing for a very active clinical research clinic down in the Central Florida area, and it was tied to a long-standing pulmonary practice, and so they predominantly did pulmonary COPD treatments, trials of those, but because of this doctor's reputation, a gentleman named Faisal Faqih, who has since retired, unfortunately, one of the best pulmonologists I've ever met, one of the best doctors I've ever met.
Hopefully I won't need a pulmonologist.
Yes, there you go. We did other trials, cancer and some other neat stuff, and I did some national recruitment for healthcare, and so I have no qualms about getting involved in this trial. I mean, here's the reality that Pfizer and Moderna and none of these people want to poison their clients. They don't want to. No. They're just the idea that it takes. It was astounding what some of these companies did, bringing a vaccine to market in 6 months.
It is, and I think it's presumptuous of me to think that I know better than the doctors and the scientists that are developing this drug, and the hundreds and thousands of people and brain power going into solving a pandemic and coming up with a vaccine for it. So, was I hesitant in getting the shot? No, I just needed to wait in line until the state broke it loose. But yeah, it was, and you know what? It didn't hurt. I didn't have the second shot after effects.
I had a little bit. I felt a little gross for about half a day, but it wasn't anything serious.
I didn't. No, I must be just healthy as a horse, because I didn't recognize a single thing. But focusing back on
one of the groups that was prioritized for vaccines was healthcare workers. So a lot of the caregivers and so forth as well have gotten in line and gotten their vaccines and so forth. So that's another way that home care agencies and don't be afraid to ask about the policies and preparations. Absolutely, that's the next question. How are you dealing with this? Because the reality is, and I've seen the numbers. The studies are showing that people are pulling their loved ones or hesitating to even put their loved ones into care facilities.
Or facilities.
Right,
Absolutely.
of any sort. Because we saw what happened in New York and New Jersey and some of those other states where it just spread through like wildfire. Half of the deaths in America were folks who were in care facilities. And so home care has become
the go-to choice for caring for seniors.
Yeah.
It was in the Wall Street Journal. I've got a copy of an article. The headline was something to the effect: nursing home, sales crash, everyone gearing up for home care. It's where they want to stay. Again, it comes back to aging in place. It's where their memories are. And a pandemic can sweep through a facility like wildfire, as it did out in Washington, as it did in New York. And it is heartbreaking to me. We folks, we're in the senior care industry. One of two or three things occurs to all of our clients. A fair, more than our share get better and then cancel service with us. Which is
a good thing.
We put that in the win column. I want them living independent without help.
Yeah.
They continue to climb, and we're there to help them. Third option is they're going to pass away. Everybody, death and taxes, Scott. We can't get away from it.
Yeah.
But that gal up in Durham who owned the truck stop, who was salty, to use your expression, she passed away at home, which is where she wanted. I went and saw her 2 days before she passed away. She had a beautician in, and she was having her nails done.
Good for her.
Absolutely. She was crushing it. And she had 7 or 8 different kinds of cancer. And she knew as well. I mean, she was mentally sharp to the day that she passed away, and she knew what was coming. But she lived life on her rules. And I can't imagine, and her family came down and it was there with her when she passed away. I can't imagine anything more crushing in life than your family member being in a facility under lockdown COVID conditions and they're passing away and the family's not there. That is, it tears my heart to think that somebody as important as your mom or your dad or your grandparent, and you can't say goodbye to them before they pass away.
Yeah.
So, is it safer at home? Absolutely, uncategorically, yes, it is.
You mentioned earlier that, average tenure can sometimes go into years of care for a single client, but there's also the possibility you just need a little bit of help for a short time. Post-surgical care. So this isn't always necessarily a long-term relationship.
No. We had a client here in Raleigh. His name was Quincy. He was a World War II veteran. And I loved Quincy. He was never married. He was a fireman. We ended up caring for Quincy 24 hours, 7 days a week for about 3 years. His sister had a hip replacement. And Scott, I swear, if I were either older or if she were younger, I would have been chasing that woman around Raleigh trying to make time with her, because she absolutely had. She was kind of like the gal, and she survived. So it was hip replacement.
Sure.
She's still doing great. Her name is Vida. Vida's doing great. Awesome family. The daughter was the advocate, very plugged into her mom's care. And we're taking care of her brother, Quincy, and when she had her hip replacement, we went in and we found exactly the right person, and they were like 2 peas in a pod. And we took care of her for about 2.5 or 3 months.
Till she got back on her feet.
Back on her feet, and off she goes again. And we disconnected. We get a lot of repeat. We get 2 types of clients, a lot of. Those that have been snake bit by a bad home care agency and don't know what good care is. And so we get those, and then we get a lot of repeat clients where we go in, we help them out short term, and they're going to continue to age, and something else is going to occur, and they get us plugged back in again.
Right.
Ideally, we're going to plug back in the same employee, but sometimes that's not possible because they've been, they're taking on a new client.
Sure.
I think the most flattering thing, Scott, is in 21 years, 9 separate occasions, our clients have stolen our employees from us.
Which is kind of a good thing. Not great as a
Well,
business
as
owner,
a
but great as
business
but it
owner,
says a lot about
it's
the people you hire.
It says a lot about the people that we hire. And those clients that are upfront and honest with me say, "Hey, Gavin, Mom's living longer than we thought, and I did some math. How can we hire Paula? I've got Paula, my aide up in Durham. I think has been hired privately for my clients twice. And cares for them until the day they die. And then she knocks on my door and says, Gavin, I'm free. And it's like, Paula, I'm going to find you a home. I guarantee I'm going to find you a home. So yeah, I think that's flattering that we do such a good job on the recruiting and the retention that our clients will hire them away privately from us. And there's a buyout clause in the contract, and they all pay it. Ultimately, it saves them money. I mean, we're not a staffing agency; we're a home care agency. Right. And to that note, I think one of the things, set expectation management. And I firmly believe in expectation management, folks. When you contract with at-home elder care or you contract with another home care agency, you are not hiring a personal maid for your home. Our focus is on keeping your family members safe at home, fed, clean, bathed, well taken care of. We do light housekeeping.
Yeah, but that's tidying up in a little bit back. That's not scrubbing the walls and the windows.
No, we don't do windows and we don't scrub baseboards, folks. We'll take care of the area that mom and dad are living in on a day-to-day basis, which is typically the family room, the kitchen, their bedroom, and the bathroom. There are cases where we'll go above and beyond that, but we are not going to clean the cat box. We're not going to be scrubbing the baseboards. We're not going to be doing the windows. Just like you couldn't get Molly maids to come in and make mom or dad a sandwich, or get them into the bath, or get them out of the shower,
or give them their meds,
or give them remind them. We do medication reminding.
Yeah.
Two things that we legally cannot do, folks. We cannot do wound dressings, and we cannot administer meds. We can get them out of the pill box and into your hand, Scott, but you've got to get them from your hand to your mouth. Okay. That's up to you.
But you're there to remind the person, which half the time that's the problem.
It's huge.
Yeah.
Social worker at UNC told me the leading number one cause of somebody going from living independently on their own and into a facility is going off their meds. They forget to go off their meds, bad things happen. Folks, if you have one takeaway from today's meeting, it is remember to take your meds, put them in the pill box, put yourself a schedule together.
And one of the primary values of home care
is
medication reminders.
Med reminders, huge.
Yeah. Well, and I have personal experience with that, because one of the problems I found, in addition to some horrific stains on my father's mattress and just indications that all the person had done was show up, make sure dad wasn't dead, empty the trash, and leave, was that he had been off of his meds for 6 months, and he was on a 3-drug cocktail for Parkinson's, which if you don't take them and take them regularly and take them
bad stuff happens.
Very bad things happen. Again, probably contributing to the advance of his dementia, because he couldn't, function because of tremors and the other bad things that are associated with Parkinson's. And so, yes, I will attest that is number one on the list. If dad had been regularly reminded to take his medication, if they'd been involved in paying attention to, well, why isn't he getting any better, or why is he getting so much worse?
Yeah. Case management, being boots on the ground, seeing dad on a weekly basis. And this is why I go out and visit our clients on a weekly basis. It's fun. Yeah. It's fun. It's eyeballs on the clients. I'm looking at things. My nurse is getting out. She's visiting with them. The caregiver's reporting in if there are any changes. But great case management, Scott, that's where it starts. Yeah. And med management, med reminders is part of that.
Yeah. Well, and the reason I asked earlier about reading the reviews is because the reality is, when you're doing healthcare, whether you're a doctor's office, you're a X-ray, or you're doing CT scans, or you're doing home care, or whatever, if you're providing a medical service, unfortunately there are negative outcomes. People just get older and sicker and die.
And they do.
And have adverse and bad things happen. And so you have to kind of get past some reviews that say they were terrible because mom died. Well, no, mom died because she had 7 different kinds of cancer or whatever.
Yeah, we've been doing this so long, Scott. There wasn't a Yelp around. There wasn't an Angie's List around when we got started in this.
Sure.
And I always told friends or people on the street that ask, or you're at a party and you're talking to somebody and say, well, what do you do? Well, I run a senior care agency. We care for seniors in their homes. And Andy Warhol said, everybody gets 15 minutes of fame. And I don't want to see mine plastered across the News and Observer or WRAL or the Wall Street Journal.
Yeah.
We get our 15 minutes of fame in eulogies and obituaries. And maybe that's the most flattering thing that anybody could say about us. When your caregivers get called out specifically, the minister's up giving the eulogy or the family member's giving the eulogy.
That's
Or
huge.
it's an obituary, and boy, we couldn't have done this without Deborah, Sarah, and Jessica.
Yeah.
They really made Gladys's life in the last 2 or 3 years comfortable. You touch somebody's life in a positive manner that way, Scott. Before I did this, I sold software. And I sold software to the likes of Michael Bloomberg and the Washington Post. And it didn't matter if they bought my software or they bought the competitors. It was still basically do the same thing. In our case, yeah, we're touching people's lives positively on a daily basis. And yeah, so obituaries and eulogies, I'll take it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I noticed there have been some people in and out. So we have we've got about 15 minutes left here this morning. We're going to be doing this again in a month, and we'll be posting the date coming up on Facebook and the subject matter. And so get your questions ready for that as well. If you want to ask questions, call the phone number. A human being will answer it. If you're in Raleigh area, you can call 919-263-0989, and that number is in the comments on the event. And if you want to call Kimberly out at our Winston-Salem, one of my favorite people, a very sharp person, running the office out there in the Triad. Her number is 336-582-9156. And again, in the comments tied to the event, the website, if you go to @homeec.com and then go to the locations page, you can find all the contact information. Each page has a little more in-depth. It has a bio of the folks who are running, who you're going to be dealing with, so you can learn a little bit more about them. And folks, just pick up the phone and call us. If you got questions, listen, this isn't a hard sell. They're not going to get a hard sell. If they just want to call you up and say, hey, I got a question
about
for you.
senior care. Yeah. We will never turn somebody away,
Yeah.
Scott, from an answer. We, in the previous agency, were the home care provider for Duke University. And Duke would do a quarterly email blast for us. And man, you knew when that email went out because our phones lit up like Christmas trees.
Yeah.
And we had a guy living up in Durham whose folks were back in Seattle. I mentioned Seattle earlier because this sticks in my head from helping him. He said, I think Dad's got Alzheimer's or dementia. He's out in Seattle. Do you have a location out there? I said, no, we don't. But let's get you taken care of.
Yeah.
Let's get you in touch with a geriatric care manager who knows the Seattle market specifically, who knows what senior care, what care levels are available out in Seattle.
And what agencies are going to provide you with a good
Who
service.
provide, because they're not going to refer a bad agency.
Yeah.
They're going to refer only the best. And I will say this about franchise home care agencies. We have to follow policy and procedure from the home office. If not, they will pull our license or they will pull our franchise from us. So do I think that franchise home care agencies are more professionally run than independents? I think that could be the case in a lot of situations. However, if you have a question, you have a senior care question, we are committed to making sure you get the right answer. Is that a hard sell? No, it's not a hard sell. We are going to find out as much about your familial situation as we possibly can. And we're going to ask questions. We're going to ask prompting questions because I want you doing the talking, Scott, and I want to listen, and I want to learn about mom or dad's needs.
Tell us your story.
Yeah. What's their story? And then at that point, if we can't help you, I'll be right up front. We can't help you. But if we think that we can, then work with you. What we'll do is we'll send Shayna or Kimberly out to meet with you in the home. Both the advocate along with a family member.
Yeah.
We'll answer all your questions in person. If you decide that you want home care, then Shayna or Kimberly are going to bring their nurses back, and the nurse is going to do an assessment of your family member's needs. From that assessment that the nurse does, and you as the family member and you as the advocate have input into that assessment, and then what she's going to do is develop what's called a plan of care. That plan of care is what the employee, the caregiver, the aide does on a day-to-day basis. And this is where your opportunity as an advocate say, well, you know what? Mom doesn't really like to cook anymore. Okay, let's talk about meal preparation. Is mom an early riser? Do we want breakfast? Because we're going to have Sheila come in from 10 in the morning to 7 in the evening. I can see Sheila getting dinner going, but is mom mom gets up at 10, is she eating breakfast right out of the gate, or do we wait until lunchtime? Meal preparation we can certainly help with, but we need let's put together a plan, hence the plan of care, to make sure that nutrition is taken care of. At that point, Shayna, and once you become a client and the assessment is done and the plan of care is done, Shayna and Kimberly and all of our other franchise partners are going to bring that paperwork back and be thinking about who is the best employee, who has the skill set necessary to provide all the levels of care we need here. Who matches up on the personality? Who can work with a cat? Mom's got a cat. Well, we got to have somebody that can work with cats.
Well, and going back to the meal prep thing, there's medical considerations as well. Are they diabetic? Or
diabetic, low sodium, high cholesterol? Take those into account.
Yeah,
and that will be taken care of in the assessment, in the plan of care, and then the caregiver is going to cook low sodium meals, low fat meals. Diabetic, we watch the sugar levels. So then we find the ideal caregiver or aide. Now Shayna and Kimberly are going to take them back and introduce them to the family and get them started. And folks, if we do this and we do it right, 99.8% of the time, we're going to hit the ball out of the park the first time.
But they have the right to say, no, I don't think this is a good fit.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. We're
going to circle back, Scott, a week later, give them a week, see how they do. How is Sheila doing with your mom? How is Rebecca doing with your mom?
Right.
Or dad? Well, boy, it seems to be coming together, Gavin. Yeah, I mean, I went over there and they were working on a puzzle together last night. Awesome. Let's give it another week. Touch base, see how things are going. Folks, if we do our job right, and we work diligently to do our job right, 99.98% of the time, we're going to get the right caregiver on the first hit. If we don't, and mom and the caregiver just aren't meshing up like we want them to, or they should, we're going to pull Rebecca and we're going to send in Mary. Let's see how Mary does. I don't make a lot of guarantees in life, folks, but I will guarantee you this. We will find exactly the right person for your mom or your dad or your aunt or your uncle or your grandparents, and they will become part of the family.
Sure.
That is my guarantee. Yep.
And that's the ultimate goal, obviously.
It is. When you, again, coming back to eulogies and obituaries, honorable mentions. Yeah.
Yeah. We got about 5 minutes left to go. Again, if you have questions that you want to ask in a less public forum, you're certainly welcome to do that. If you reach out through the contact information on the respective Facebook pages, and if you aren't sure, feel free, if you're in the Winston-Salem area, call us in Raleigh, and we'll get you over to Kimberly and vice versa. Folks, we're not going to hang up the phone on you. I can pretty much guarantee you that.
No,
we're here to help. So reach out through the contact information. It is on all of our web pages. We're also out there on LinkedIn. We're on Twitter. We're on YouTube. There is a fairly extensive collection of videos about our company on YouTube, our philosophy of care, and the videos are also cross-posted on Facebook. It's a great way to get to know us. There's interviews with Kimberly. There's interviews with Gavin, and about various topics, and not just about us, but about philosophy of care and reacting to what's going on in the world out there right now as far as, senior care is evolving. Do you see it going back? I mean, I think home care is going to be the thing. I really do. I think, once COVID subsides, I think home care will still be a bigger part of the puzzle.
I don't see it going back to the levels that it did. I think there will always be a place from a needs perspective of the patient or the client, and a budgetary concern or something to that effect. That there's always going, and familial. There are individuals out there that don't have anyone else. They are become guardians of the state. There are individuals on Medicaid that don't have the financial means to pay for home care. Yeah. I mean, I don't want my family members to end up in a Medicaid facility. I would not advocate it for anybody. And if you're looking at facilities, folks, and if home care is not for you, and you are looking at facilities, go by at unannounced times. The sales and marketing people are going to clean the place up for you, and they're going to put spin and polish on it, show up unannounced, walk through the halls, use your own eyes, use your own nose.
I've heard. Take a sniff. What does it smell like?
What does it smell like? And you figure out if you want to put your family member in that facility. My counterpart in a facility is called the executive director, and you ought to have their cell phone number, bar none. And if they don't give it to you, then you need to go somewhere else. And I wanted to mention one other thing. Scott was saying, reach out to us, folks. Those phone numbers are cell phones. We can get text messages on them as well. Texting works just as well as a phone call. If you're not comfortable with a phone call, or you just want to text and say, hey, saw your Facebook thing, can you give me a call? That's fine. You can find our email addresses out on the websites as well. So email, phone call, text messages, you get in touch with us and we will get you taken care of.
Very good. So in the final 2 minutes, first, let's go back over the questions. How long have you been in business? Because we've got a new audience.
21 years.
Okay. Well, no, I mean, but the questions you should be asking the agency.
Yeah.
How long have you been in business?
Yep. Insured, bonded.
Are you insured and bonded?
Yep.
And bonded, in case folks don't know what that means, it means that if, and this has never happened in your experience, but the caregiver were to, say, take mom's engagement ring, the client is covered for that theft up to, you said,
$25,000 per occurrence.
Right. And then there's liability insurance. There's licensing from the state that you have to obtain.
Are they licensed? Are they insured?
Insurance is liability. The caregiver accidentally harms the client. Heaven forbid. And you've got insurance that covers if the caregiver drives the client's car, drives them to a doctor's appointment, there's additional insurance that covers what their insurance doesn't.
I think there's one other question, Scott, that you need to ask if you're looking for this level of care, and that is, what if my normal caregiver can't show up? Are you going to send me a replacement? And the answer should categorically be yes.
They're not going to leave you hanging.
No, they're not going to leave you hanging, because if mom's got Alzheimer's and is a walkaway risk, and your caregiver doesn't show up,
Because people get sick, stuff happens.
You got to stay there with mom then, or mom's at risk. Well, so that's now interrupting your day.
Yeah.
Now you might have had 6 meetings lined up. You're an executive with a company, and you just trash those 6 meetings because your caregiver didn't show up. The agency needs to send a replacement. That's what we do. We will call you up. We will say, Scott, Mary just called. She or her baby is throwing up, running a fever. She can't come into work.
Right.
I've already spoken with Karen. I've had Karen speak with our vice president of nursing.
She's aware of the client's
Karen
needs.
is familiar with your mom's needs. Karen is on her way out there to take over for Mary until she can get back to work.
You are covered.
You are covered. Number one, end of the day, Scott, when the rubber meets the road, the boots are on the ground, you need to know that agency has got your back. If they commit to you morally and financially, they want to take care of your mom, they have a moral obligation to make sure your mom is taken care of.
Well, and
But a
listen.
lot of agencies don't subscribe to that, and I'm disappointed.
Yeah. Final note, because we are essentially out of time, but we can go for a couple minutes. Caregiving is sometimes as detrimental to the caregiver. If you are a family caregiver, there is study after study showing that if you are taking care of a family member, you neglect your own care, your health declines, your mental health declines.
In a nutshell, Scott, caregiving is tough.
Yeah.
How do I know that? Because after work today, I'm going over to fix my mom's china hutch, and I'm going to fix her umbrella in her house. I'm doing caregiving for mom.
Right.
Now, this is not fixing a hutch, and by the way, fixing an umbrella, not in the caregiver realm, but
Right.
I am, I'm touched with it with my folks, and I'm not even doing that much for them. But when you've got somebody with Alzheimer's or dementia, it is just as likely the caregiver is going to end up in a worse off situation than the client themselves is, because it is so tough. It is tough work.
Yeah. So bring in the professionals.
Yes. On that note,
Well, we're going to wrap things up, and let me give those. The website is at home, HOMEEC.com. Go to the locations page. Raleigh office, 919-263-0989.
we cover the whole triangle.
The whole triangle. And Winston-Salem covers the whole triad.
Covers the triad.
336-582-9156. Gavin, thank you for joining us.
Scott, thank you very much. It was a pleasure.
Very much.